Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Vegan Spirituality Online Gathering. I'm one of your hosts. My name is Lisa Levinson, and I'm the Sustainable Activism Director for this campaign that focuses on providing emotional and spiritual tools for animal activists. And we also have vegan spirituality groups that are all across the country. They meet locally. And if you're interested in either starting one or joining one, you can visit the website, which is veganspirituality.com. We also have a new project, which is an interfaith vegan coalition, which we encourage anyone to join, whether you're spiritual or you have a religious affiliation. We're putting together a declaration, and we're also putting together some advocacy kits for activists who want to help their places of worship go vegan. So stay tuned for more. There's a Facebook group for that as well, which is called Interfaith Vegan Coalition. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Judy Carmen. She's the author of Peace to All Beings, and together we organize this vegan spirituality online gathering to explore veganism as a spiritual practice together as a community.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everybody, and welcome. And I'm going to be introducing our wonderful guest. I think everybody's going to be so excited to meet Sandra Sellani, vegan chef and author. She is a full-time marketing executive in addition to being an activist, and a part-time blogger for 40-year-old Vegan, which is 40YOV.com. She has an executive MBA from Pepperdine University in Malibu. Sandra completed her culinary training at Matthew Kenny Culinary Academy in LA and holds a certification in plant-based nutrition from the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutritional Studies, which is all plant-based. She is also the author of What's Your BQ, which stands for Brand Quotient, and that's a business book. She's a weekly contributor on Jane Velez Mitchell's Lunch Break Live program, which is a Facebook Live video cast featuring vegan recipe demonstrations. She currently resides in Newport Beach, California, and her new book is titled The 40-Year-Old Vegan, and the subtitle is 75 Recipes to Make You Leaner, Cleaner, and Greener in the Second Half of Life. It is the winner of the International Book Awards and Green Book Festival. Sandra and her twin sister Susan transformed some traditional Italian comfort foods of their childhood into healthier plant-based versions. So these recipes in this book should be awesome. The 40-Year-Old Vegan includes a 52-week plan to easily transition to plant-based lifestyle with old-fashioned, recognizable vegan recipes and a realistic vision for looking and feeling good in the second half of life without having to squeeze into a pair of size 2 Spanx. That's an advantage. Recipes include lentil shepherd's pie, manicotti Florentine with cashew ricotta, zucchini noodles with lemon walnut pesto, and more. So it sounds like a great book to give as a gift to people who are learning to go vegan. So, Sandra, we're so glad you're with us and so appreciate your taking time to talk to us, because I know you must be extremely busy with all these things you've got going on. Now, I understand that you heard a Bible verse when you were 8 years old that changed your life and your destiny. Please tell us about that.
Yes, and thank you, Judy and Lisa, for having me here. It's such a pleasure. Yes, my mother and my father were very religious people, and my mother, I think, in an attempt to try to teach me to be kind to everyone, shared a Bible verse from Hebrews. I believe it's 13:2. And the verse is, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares." And in the mind of an 8-year-old, that's a pretty big deal. I thought about that, and it really fascinated me. And I thought about it when I went to school, and I thought, well who is the angel? I better be nice to everyone because I don't know who the angel is. And so I took it in a very literal way. And it was also something that was exemplified by my family. They were kind to everyone. They were good people. And as I grew older, I came to interpret that verse in the sense that everyone has divinity within them and everyone is deserving of kindness. But it wasn't until much later that I realized, well, why shouldn't that also apply to animals? Not just, the strangers could be animals as well. And those of you know, when you look into the eyes of an animal, you see a kind being, a soul, a living creature that wants to live, wants to have their offspring, wants to have peace, wants to enjoy their life just as we do. So I think that verse is so appropriate just for everyday life, but also for the spirit of veganism and that spirit of kindness that where veganism originates.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, and that's such a beautiful verse, and for you to expand that out to include animals is really great. I think we could all take notes on that, because that's something, if we're talking to other Christians, that we could bring that out. The way you put it is really beautiful. So you're doing such fantastic activist work, Sandra. Please tell us about your journey to becoming vegan and your work with Jane Velez Mitchell, who I know is doing a lot herself, and also your new book. So tell us about all this, all these great things you're doing.
Yes, I grew up in an Italian family, Italian on both sides, so it was not uncommon to have meat and dairy at the dinner table. We did have a good variety of food, so we also grew up enjoying fruits and vegetables. And my family, as I said, they were very kind people. They were members of the church. My great uncle was a minister. My brother is now a minister. My father was the deacon of the church. My grandmother, helped out in the church. So it was a very spiritual family. And yet, as many of us, do or did, we didn't connect the dots between the meat that was on our plate and the religious beliefs, the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. That connection was never made as far as animals were concerned. And I think with so many people, we want to have congruence in our life. We want our beliefs and our actions to be congruent. And that was one piece that wasn't connecting, but I didn't notice it. I didn't see it. And it wasn't until I was, let's say, 22 years old, I met a woman who was a vegetarian. Her name is Bobby Theodore, and she's a good friend to this day. And I noticed her cooking her vegetarian food, and I started asking her about it. And she told me about factory farming and all of the atrocities taking place with animals. And I said to her, gosh, I never even connected the dots. And I said, I'm Italian. I said, I don't even know if I could give up meat and dairy, but at the same time, I want to help animals. And she said, well, even if you only gave up meat and dairy one meal a week, it would still make a difference. And that statement was so profound to me because, one, there was no judgment there. There was no condescending behavior. There was just a spirit of wanting to share and wanting to give information. And it made me say, well, I can do that. And I think most great things happen when we say, well, I can do that, because it's a starting point. And that's why I think it's so important to share with people who aren't vegan in that same open, receptive way, not in a way that's judging or critical. And because that sort of kindness that was extended to me was the thing that ultimately led me to becoming a vegan. So that was something that I'll never forget. And that's when I wrote the book, it was with that in mind. I put together a plan that helps people transition to a vegan life, because not everybody's going to do it instantly. Not everyone's going to do it overnight. So the plan helps them to do it gradually and in a way that is enjoyable and meaningful. And I was fortunate enough to ask Jane Velez Mitchell to write the foreword of the book. I had never met her before. I was just a fan of the work that she had been doing. I was in admiration of her advocacy. And I was a little scared. I sent her an email and I thought, I don't know what she's going to say, but I'm just going to ask her if she'll write the foreword. Here I am, this unknown author. And she responded in about 20 minutes and she said, I would be happy to write the foreword. And she wrote a beautiful foreword. And she went a step further because she is so kind and giving, and she invited me to go onto her lunch break live show, and she invited me to her home. So I went there and I made one of our favorite recipes, an Italian recipe of stuffed pasta shells, and we had so much fun. And then she said, you can do this once a week from your home. And so I did, and I've been doing it ever since. And that has been such a wonderful opportunity to share veganism with people around the world. People log in from all places on our planet, and some of them are vegan and some of them are not. And I think that same spirit of let's just share something good. Like, we all have one thing in common: we love to eat. So let's use that as that commonality, share it. And oh, by the way, this delicious food happens to be cruelty free. Isn't that wonderful? So I think that so much of advocacy is being a role model, being a person that people want to emulate versus, sort of the voice of authority, speaking down to people. It's about, how can I be the kind of person that people will look at and say, oh, wow, that seems really enjoyable. She's doing it and it looks easy and it looks like something I would enjoy. And I think that draws people in. And it's maybe a subtle form of activism in that we just find that common ground with people, and food is such a wonderful common ground. And the people that log on to the show, are very receptive. Even if they're not vegan, they're receptive to trying it because it looks good and it looks delicious. And that's sort of what the book is all about. Let's make this fun and enjoyable, and be open to it.
That sounds great. So how now you're saying that you do one of these shows once a week from your home?
I do, every Sunday, yes.
So how can people listen to that? How can they listen in?
They go onto Jane Velez Mitchell's Facebook page, and Lunch Break Live is actually on every day at 12:30 Pacific time. So if they go onto her page and they join, they will see when she goes live, and they will be able to hear it and see it. And if they don't make it at the right time, you can just scroll through and see the previous Lunch Break Lives. And she also then posts them on her site called janeunchained.com. So you can see it live, you can see it after the fact. And I also post them on my YouTube page. So they're out there. And if you just go to Facebook and see Jane's page, you can participate. And it's a lot of fun. And you can just do it from your sometimes I join in when someone else is doing it, and I just look on my cell phone and I watch it on my lunch hour when I'm at work. So it's very easy to participate. And you can also send in questions. You can, it's very interactive.
That's great. Lisa, did you put that on the message board so everybody can see that?
Yes, I did. Both Sandra's website and janeunchained.com are both on the chat box. So if you're online with us now, you can copy those into your own browser and check them out anytime.
Right.
Thank you.
And this will also be recorded. What we're talking about now will be recorded, and Lisa will be sending that out too. So if you want to hear that again, you can do that when you get the recording from Lisa. So next question. Got so many questions, Sandra. How does veganism help you on your spiritual path? It sounds like you had a really strong spiritual beginning. You've said that spiritual lessons are everywhere if we choose to see them. So how does veganism fit into that? And how does veganism help you spiritually?
I think that what I mentioned before, feeling that we're living a life that's in congruence, that our our belief systems are carried through in all of our actions. And 3 times a day, when we sit down to eat and we take a moment to realize that at that moment, while we're eating a vegan meal, we're not bringing harm to another creature, we're not bringing harm to the environment. That is a really powerful feeling. And that's why I like to encourage people, try it for one meal, but when you try it, make a note to yourself that you're not harming anyone in this moment, and you're still getting all the nourishment you need. You're still getting what your body needs, but you're doing something so wonderful for animals and the planet. I want people to really feel that behind. It's not just about, wow, this tastes good, but I'm taking an action that is in direct alignment with my beliefs. And so we do that. And I think the other thing that's important, and this also reminds me of something that my mother loved. Her favorite hymn had a line in it that said, "His eye is on the sparrow, so I know he watches me." And so that to me translates beautifully to veganism. If we care enough about a sparrow, if we care enough about an animal, then of course we're going to care about other people. And I think that's very important, because a lot of people have said to me, "Oh, you're vegan, you care more about animals than you do about people." And I said, no, actually, when you're vegan, it's beneficial to everyone. It's beneficial to animals. It's beneficial to the environment. It's beneficial to people, to our health, to our healthcare system. Its effects are so far-reaching, and that's what I want people to understand. It really is a ripple effect, and it begins from within, but it impacts people around you. And when you are a role model for kindness, when people say, "Oh, she's a nice person, a kind person. Oh, and she also happens to be vegan," they start to make those connections. And that's why I think it's so important that vegans look at their actions towards others, because when someone hears that you're vegan, they start watching you with scrutiny. They start watching what you eat. They start watching what you do. And I have seen, unfortunately, sometimes online, vegans who, in an attempt to be consistent with their veganism, sometimes put other people down, or tell someone you're not vegan enough, or you're not, strong enough. Or I was on a Facebook page once where a girl who was trying to be vegan said, "My grandmother bought me some food she thought was vegan, but it was vegetarian. But I ate it anyway because, my grandmother bought it and I didn't want to waste it." And people ripped her to shreds. And these were vegans saying, "How dare you?" And, "Don't come here looking for absolution." And they just tore her apart. And I thought, oh my goodness, you're missing the point of this. And so I think it's more important than ever for vegans to be a person that others will see, and see all of the qualities, not just about the food, but are they kind? Are they kind to other people? Are they patient? Are they examples of someone that I would want to emulate in general? Set aside the veganism, but is this a person that is a quality human being? And so it's a reminder to be your best, because you're representing an ideal, and you want people to think well of the ideal of veganism, not just of you per se, but you're representing that ideal that you want to share with the rest of the world. And so we need to be on our best behavior and let people know that vegans are good, kind people, and we are here sincerely trying to make the world a better place for both animals and people.
Yeah, that's so true. And the people who do post those really cruel comments are not really showing people somebody that they want to emulate, because they're sending out anger and hatred and all these things that really aren't aligned with veganism. And they're going, why would I want to be vegan if that's the way you feel, angry all the time and critical of others and all that? So yeah, it's so important to be a role model of kindness, like you said. So another thing that you have said, Sandra, is that we need to establish spiritual non-negotiables to live a happy, fulfilled life. And as we all know, animal activism can be traumatic and demanding. Can these spiritual non-negotiables help? And what is it that you mean by that phrase? What advice do you have for us as activists to stay spiritually strong as we continue to work for the liberation of animals?
Yes, a spiritual non-negotiable to me is making a conscious decision as to what actions you will or will not do. And I'll give you an example from my work. When I first became a marketing consultant, there I was looking for my first client, and I was all excited and ready to go and needed the money. And there was an article that ran about me in a local paper, and someone called and said, oh, I saw the article about you and your book. My first book was a business book, and I want to hire you. I need a marketing consultant right away, and I happen to be in your area in Newport Beach. Can you meet me at this restaurant? And it was right down the street. I said, sure, I'll be right there. So I got in the car, all excited about my first client. So I'm waiting, and there's a big window, and I see this car pull up, this Rolls Royce, which was over the top even for Newport Beach. And this man gets out, and he's wearing this beautiful suit and jewelry. I mean, this was a man who obviously had a lot of money, and I thought, okay, this is my client coming in the door. And sure enough, it was. And in speaking to him on the phone, I got the name of his company, but it was a very generic name, so I didn't even know what he did. I was ready to do business with this man. And sure enough, as the universe would have it, he introduced himself, and he said, oh, I would love for you to do marketing for my company. I said, great, what do you do? And he said, I'm one of the top suppliers of beef for restaurants throughout the United States. Like, what are the odds of that happening? The universe has a sense of humor. And before I could even open my mouth, the first thing he said was, we kill about 900 head of cattle a day. And I went, whoa, okay, time out, stop. I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm a vegetarian. At the time I was vegetarian, I wasn't even vegan. And he kind of, chuckled about it. And I said, I'm really sorry, but this is not something I can do. And so he ended up not working with me. And, I still, every so often, I will get someone approaches me in business, and they want me to market their steakhouse or their leather, products or whatever. So it's very easy for me, though, to say no. And it doesn't matter if you need the money. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. That's a non-negotiable. So I have a list of businesses and types of businesses that I will not work with. And sometimes I even got some ribbing a couple of times when someone wanted to refer business to me, and I said, no, I won't work with that company. And, oh, come on, Sandra, you're being so stubborn, or and I just smiled and I said, oh, well, that's a loss. It's a loss, but that's not something I want to do. So it's kind of makes me chuckle, because it does happen every so often. But those are the moments. And ironically, I'm a branding expert. I always tell people, your brand is defined just as much by what you say no to as what you say yes to. And I think that's true of your personal brand as well as your business brand. So that's a non-negotiable, and that's something that I think we all need to just think about. Where do we draw the line, and what are we willing to do or not do?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So how could we work that into, like, many of us who are not in marketing, well, some of us may be, but in terms of staying strong as activists, how could we translate that to, say, just general social interactions?
Yes.
And staying spiritually strong at the same time.
I think that a sense of community is so important to stay strong. And this vegan spirituality group is one example of that. When you have a group of people, when you have a community of like-minded people, of kindred spirits, they help you to stay with your convictions. And so, my example happened to be about business, but I know people will find themselves in situations where it may be a social setting and, they're the only vegan there and everyone's eating meat and they're feeling a little bit left out, or they're feeling, like the outcast in the group. And I think that when you have a community of people and you know that they're there to support you, you can make those decisions and have a sense of humor about it too. I also hear a lot of people say, "Oh, people at work are giving me a hard time because of what I eat or what I don't eat." And I always have a sense of humor. People tease me a lot, about being vegan and, "Oh, what are you eating today?" And you have to smile. And again, just take the gentle ribbing and know that it's done. I always assume that things are coming from a good place, and I assume good intent. And I assume that even when someone might be teasing me about my choices, that might be their way of trying to find out a little bit more information. And so I use it as an opportunity to teach and to share. And I think when you come from a place of teaching and sharing, those non-negotiables, become easier. They become easier because you're sharing a part of yourself. And there will be people that are intrigued and want to learn more. And there will be people that you impact, even if they don't let on, or even if you think no one's listening. I know that I've talked to people who have later said, because you said that, or because I saw what you were eating, I'm trying to eat more fruits and vegetables, or I'm going in a different direction. So I think that it's important to know that you do have an impact on people, even if you don't see it in the moment. When you have that non-negotiable moment where you say, "I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to be a vegan, even though I'm surrounded by non-vegans, but I'm in good company. I have my community, and I know that I am making a difference, even if it's not apparent in the moment."
Yeah, I think that's so true. And are you saying that we kind of need to know ahead of time what our non-negotiables are so that we're kind of ready when something happens? Is that a good idea?
That's perfectly stated. If you think about it in ahead of time, whether you're going to an event, whether it's your day-to-day work experience, think about the situations that could come up where your values might be tested, or you might be put in a place where you're a little bit on the spot, and think about how you're going to deal with it, and try to think about it again from a place of, this is an opportunity, not, "Oh, people are going to just give me the worst time about this." Come from it as, "Well, this is a great example." If, for example, I always thought if I worked at a place where everyone was vegan, I would have no opportunity to share or teach. So the way I like to look at it is, wherever you go, if you're surrounded by people who are eating meat, or if you're surrounded by people who are living a life that is different from yours, that's an opportunity to share with them. So I wouldn't have it any other way. I like being around people who ask and who are curious, and who I get to give some information, because I feel like every time we do that, we're planting a seed, and that seed is going to grow, and that person will be changed by what we've done or what we've said.
Yeah, I agree, Sandra. And I think what you've said is so true, that if we do whatever it is, when we're setting our limits or laying down our non-negotiables, if we do it in a very kind way and respectful way, that it leaves an impression. Whereas if we act angry or hurt or offended, then that makes it easier for them to disregard what we're doing, the values that we're displaying. So, yeah, I think it's just so important what you're saying, and just being an example of kindness, because that's really what veganism is. It's kindness to all beings, not just people. So, yeah, so people can say, "Oh, so that's what she means by kindness." And she really is a nice person, so it must be true.
Exactly.
Well, so Is there anything else that I haven't covered that you'd like to add before we open up for questions? I'm betting there's some people that have questions, but I just wondered if there was anything you'd like to add.
One other thing that I don't know if everybody knows about me, they do if they've read the book, but growing up, I was the worst junk food junkie imaginable. I lived in college. I lived on burgers and fries, and I worked at a supermarket. And every single day for 6 years, when I worked there in high school and college, I had 2 candy bars and a can of Coke, and I was just the worst. But I was tall and I was thin. I was 5'10", 125 pounds, and didn't care. I ate what I wanted to. And then at the age of 22, my stomach started to feel a little funny, and I went to the doctors, and I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And my doctor said 2 things that I'll never forget. He said, "You are now at age 22, 3 times more likely to have cancer because of this." And the second thing he said was, "Whatever you do," he said, "let's talk about your diet. Whatever you do, don't eat any fresh fruits or vegetables." I went, so even in my junk food induced stupor, I knew something was wrong there. So he put me on 4 medications immediately, and it was not a fun way to live. And a couple years later, when I became vegetarian, I noticed that my symptoms significantly subsided and in fact went into remission. And when I became vegan at the age of 50, they disappeared completely. And so in addition to the spiritual element, and I think part of spirituality is taking care of the bodies that house these spirits, it is such a respectful way to treat your body and such a good way to treat your body. And if I can go from where I was to where I am now, being not on any medication, being healthier now in my 50s than I was in my 20s, it is so clear to me that this is such an important part of our beings, and it's wonderful to know that people can reduce disease, prevent disease, lessen their symptoms by this diet, and it's really everything that we need.
Wow, that is quite a story, Sandra. My gosh. So there's no going back for you.
No going back. I'm
for
I'm
so
in it
many
for life.
reasons. Yeah, it is a beautiful life. Yeah, we're so blessed, and we want others to be blessed as well, and it's getting the word out. That's what we're all trying to do, and take care of ourselves at the same time. So shall we open up for questions, Lisa?
Yes, let's go ahead and do that. So I wanted to let everyone know who's on our call, and we do have some folks here, about 11 or 12 people who've joined us. So if you'd like to ask a question, you can do it in one of 3 ways. Let's see. You can either type it into the chat box, or if you have if you're on the phone, because I noticed some of you are on the phone, you can press *4, and then that will unmute you, and you'll be able to ask Sandra your question directly. Also, if you're on the computer, then there are a few icons that you'll see, and the audio on the little microphone, you can press that, and that'll also open up your microphone so that you can speak. So we really welcome communication with everyone in any of those ways. And if you have a webcam, you're welcome to turn it on, and then you can ask your question and we can see you. That sounds great. It looks like we have some in the chat box. Melissa asked, what do you think is the easiest way to transition to a vegan life? One meal at a time, or perhaps removing one ingredient at a time? For example, eliminating dairy.
Yes, Melissa, that's a great question. And I think either one will work, and you know yourself best. But I know that one of the easiest things to do is just find one ingredient in your house. Let's just say it's milk. And for the next week, instead of using milk in your coffee, you use coconut milk or almond milk, and you do that one thing and nothing else. And that way you don't feel like the rug's been pulled out from under you. You're still eating that the way you normally would, and do that one thing. And then after that 1 week is up, then try another substitute. So maybe instead of using, mayonnaise on your sandwich, use hummus. And now you've got a second substitution while you're doing the milk. And so you can just really lean into it a little at a time. And I think you'll find that a lot of the vegan substitutes are upgrades. I always tell people, instead of using mayonnaise, use hummus or an avocado. That's an upgrade. So I think so many people, when they realize that it's not so hard, because there are so many delicious substitutes, and they really enjoy them, and they often tell me, I don't even miss the milk in my coffee, or I don't miss the mayonnaise on my sandwich. They usually love it. So yeah, try it one thing at a time and one step at a time, and you can definitely.
Great. Thank you for answering that question. That's a really helpful tip, I think, to take it slowly and to be compassionate with oneself. We have
Mhm.
another comment by John, and he says he has been noticing the negativity on the vegan Facebook pages. And in Atlanta, where he is, everyone knows each other. They get together for book clubs and dinners, and actually, he holds a world peace diet study group. And he's been thinking of starting his own positive, uplifting vegan page on Facebook to see if he can cause a shift in the dialogue and create more uplifting and more uplifting group to associate with. It's an issue that he's struggling with, and is wondering, what are your thoughts?
I love the idea. I think there is so much room for expansion in the vegan world. I think that the more examples we set of positive behavior, we will, like attracts like. So we put positive information out there, we're going to attract positive people. And, there's a saying, don't feed the trolls. And, so I do see exactly what you see, John. I see people coming up and making negative comments, but that makes me even more committed to giving a positive message, whether it's sharing a recipe or sharing a circumstance with people. And I would fully support you in doing that. And let me know what your website URL is, because I will join in.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah. This is all part of what we do with the Sustainable Activism campaign, is promote nonviolent communication. And I think that's something that would really help our vegan community too, is to learn ways to communicate that are kind to one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And John says, thank you.
You're welcome, John.
Yeah. So if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to chime right in. You can mention them on the chat box, or you can also uh, open up your webcam. I think I'm hearing somebody. I don't know if you're trying to join on. Again, you can do that directly by pressing *4 on your phone, and also on the little toolbar if you're online. See how we're doing with our participants. Great. I noticed there was a couple people when we started who put their webcam on. I don't know if any of you have any questions. I'd like to welcome Doug and Jackie also. I think that's adorable that there's both of you on your let's see. And then Melissa is actually asking, what types of cuisine do you feel have the most vegan options? Like if you're choosing a restaurant, what type of restaurant? It's a great question.
Well, Indian restaurants are wonderful. They've got amazing vegan dishes. I never have a problem at an Indian restaurant. Italian is actually great too. There's salads and minestrone soups. I've been looking for restaurants for so long, and I'm almost at the point where no matter what type of restaurant it is, I can either find something or I will ask for something. I went to a company event that was sort of a required event about a year ago, and of course they had it at a steakhouse, and so I had to ask them, "Can you make me something that's vegan?" And they were so gracious. They made me amazing vegan dish. So I always like to see if the chefs are up for the challenge of making something vegan. And I found that they not only do they love making something vegan, they always feel like they have to overcompensate because there's no meat. So they give you huge portions. And so I have had some of the biggest meals come to me when I've asked them to make something special. And everybody at the table is jealous of what I have because they make something really amazing. So it's always fun to go and try. And I always ask, I usually get something better than I would have when I ask them for something special.
Actually, Sandra, I've had a very similar experience as you. Even traveling, when I was in Argentina, there was a group it's known for its meat. So the group was going to eat that in this particular restaurant. I thought, oh gosh, I was trying to avoid this.
Right.
But I asked the people who ran the restaurant if they could make me something that was vegan. And it was this gorgeous vegetable platter, and everyone actually wanted what I had instead. It turned out
Exactly.
to be really a great educational moment.
It really is. And on airplanes too, when you ask for the vegan meal, it always looks better than what everybody else has. And so people usually ask me on the airplane, well, what did you get? And oh, I got the vegan dish, and always looks better. So it is. It's a fun experiment, and to see how people react to your dish.
And another tip is, if you go to a place that is not a vegan restaurant, you can also look at the sides, because often there are different sides you can put together and create a dish. And one place I was recently at, a definitely non-vegan restaurant, but they were the only ones open at the time. And so I told them, oh, I'm going to do this with all the sides. And the waitress said, wow, that's such a great idea. And she said there was a person who was vegan who came in earlier who ended up leaving because they didn't have anything vegan. And she thought, oh, I'm going to tell them, we can do this and we can make this into a vegan dish.
That is a great point. The same thing as when you walk into a restaurant, it is an opportunity to educate the people that work there and the chefs that, hey, there's a greater demand now for this. And if you don't have something, to plant that seed, maybe they need to start adding things to their menu, because I'm surprised how many restaurants still don't have a lot of vegan options. But the fact that they're receptive to making something, I think, is a good idea. And again, it gives us an opportunity as vegans to go out there and plant more seeds where they're needed. And the restaurants are definitely a place where they're very much needed.
Wonderful. So we're on the same page with that one, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
It looked like someone was trying to talk to us. If I don't.
That might be me.
Oh, great. Can you tell us your name?
My name is James, and I live in Shipshewana, Indiana.
Oh, hi, James. Thanks for joining us.
James.
Hi. Hi, thank you. I've been a vegetarian for 22 years actually. And I did that because I gave myself to God, or at least how I perceived God at the time period. And then I started going to church, and I found out who Jesus was. And as soon as I found out what Jesus exactly meant, I instantly knew I had to become vegan. I just knew. And I love our church. I love my church that my wife and I go to, but it's very, very difficult because we're in a very rural part of Indiana, lots of farms. You can imagine the comments that are being made, and I so badly want to share why I'm a vegan. I so badly want to share how Jesus literally opened up my heart, because I heard you guys mention how a lot of vegans out there are very bitter. They are. I was a very angry vegetarian, but now that I'm a vegan, it's like, wow. And now that I have Jesus, it's like, wow, I'm no longer angry at anybody. And I so badly want to share that the two go hand in hand, but I'm not sure how. I haven't even been to a church breakfast. They have breakfast because of what's on the menu. It's not easy for me, and you guys can imagine.
Yeah. That is really beautiful, James, what you're saying. This is Judy talking. And Lisa mentioned earlier that we have this Interfaith Vegan Coalition, and there's some things that we could send you. If you could put your email address in there, in the chat box, we could send you what we've got so far anyway, to help people with Christian churches to introduce the idea of veganism. But I love what you're saying about the lack of anger that you feel, and basically just wanting to be like Jesus, right?
Yeah, yeah. I've talked to a few people, and it's been pretty well. My wife is playing around with vegetarianism, which amen for that. Because that was a tough one with her and I. And when you were angry. Yeah, as she puts it, when I was angry vegetarian. Now that I'm not, it's much easier. But it's every time I try to talk to some of the folks in church, I get overwhelmed by emotions. I get overwhelmed by the Holy Spirit, and I just start crying. And it's not that it's me hurting. It's like literally I feel like the Holy Spirit is taking over me and crying for me. And it's almost like I'm praying with the Holy Spirit, but it's still. This Sunday coming up is going to be my first breakfast at church because I'm taking a leap of faith of somebody there will respond. My wife says she will. But yeah, I'm on the phone. Interfaith Coalition. How would I?
Oh, yeah.
So what we can do? Why don't I give you? I can give you our email, and you can send us an email.
That's perfect.
And that way we'll make sure that you get the information you need. You can send an email to veganspirituality.com. And if you don't have a pen, veganspirituality@gmail.com. And if you don't have a pen, you can also just go to the veganspirituality.com website, and there's a contact us page. And if you write it in there, we'll make sure that you get all the information you need.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I feel like God has put me here for a reason. And I've come to love my church family, and it's amazing. It's more than I could hope for. And then, but I'm different, and I'm for a reason. So.
And Sandra, did you have anything you'd like to say to James?
I want to say, James, thank goodness you're different. That's what we need. That's what we need. You're the change that people need to see, and you were put there for that reason. And you can change a lot of lives just by what you've said. That you're happy in your convictions with veganism, and you can be that role model that so many people need in your church.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. My wife's smiling because she's trying to support me as much as she can, but it's challenging at times.
One other thing I'll mention, James, is that we also, in Defense of Animals, runs a support line for people who are going through something just like you. If you're struggling with people in your community, you can always call the support line. We have actually vegan therapists who are on the other end of the line who understand where you're coming from, and you're welcome to call. The number there is 800-705-0425. So I'll put that in the chat box for anyone who's listening, and then when you send us an email, I'll make sure to send you the phone number as well.
All right. Thank you, and God bless everyone. How do I unmute it so that somebody else can talk?
Everyone, I can go ahead and mute you from my end, and then it looked like we had someone else who was on. I saw her webcam for a moment. If you wanted to pop on and ask a question, and meanwhile, I'll go ahead and mute you, James. Thanks again for joining us.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Aw. Great. So I think it was Gina might have been the person who had their webcam on momentarily. I don't know if you wanted to ask a question or if it just happened that way, but you're welcome to. We have a few more minutes, so if anyone would like to chime in with a question or a comment, that was such a lovely. I really appreciated what James said, and know that a lot of folks out there, whether it's in a church or a synagogue, if we're with a different religious community, sometimes it can be really hard. And even I can remember in a synagogue one time in Philadelphia saying, gee, at the break the fast after a high holy holiday, there was nothing vegan to eat. And I had mentioned that to the rabbi, and she met with me, and then she said, I didn't even realize that. And she changed their policy and made sure there was a whole vegan table of food after that. So sometimes it takes just speaking your truth, just saying what your thoughts are in a kind way, and you may get a response.
That's so wonderful. And you change that experience so that other people going forward will have those options just because you said something. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, and one nice thing is we can all do that if we run into situations. Just let them know, and the chances are the person or the establishment is new to this information, and they may be open to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so let's see if there's any other questions. Again, you can put them in the chat box or a comment. And let's see. Oh, here's one. I've had a lot of computer connection issues, so I've missed some of this, but I was wondering if you have any suggestions for me. This is from Diane. My 15-year-old niece, who unfortunately lives about 1,500 miles away, has just announced that she is now vegetarian and wants to transition to veganism, but is a very picky eater. She is willing to try more fruits and veggies, and I would like to know if you have any ideas for kid-friendly vegan recipes. She'll be attending or spending 3 weeks with me this summer. Wow.
That's great. How exciting. There are so many kid-friendly vegan recipes on the web at no charge. You can go to vegan.com, and I think they even let you do a search by kid-friendly. They've got little check boxes, and so many wonderful opportunities. And all the things that kids love to eat. I mean, there's vegan hot dogs, there's vegan macaroni and cheese, and all of those things that kids love. But I would definitely utilize vegan.com and even 40yov.com, my website. I've got most of mine are kid friendly too because they're all comfort foods, and kids love comfort food. But wonderful options on the web.
Yeah, those are great. And I wasn't sure if, Diane, if you were wanting to speak with us, if you have a 610 number. It looks like someone was trying to say hello. You're welcome to. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Hi.
Tell us your name.
Chris.
Hi, Chris. Do you have a question for Sandra?
Well, I was just saying, the way he was there, I know that somebody had their kid's sister coming up, and what they ate was those little Cheerios in the cup on the drive up to where they were for vacation.
That's a classic. There, so many of the things that we enjoy eating are already vegan. I mean, I always tell people, if you ever eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you're eating something vegan, or if you're eating chips and salsa, or, guacamole, and there's so many wonderful things out there are already vegan. So I always like people to, even if they're not vegan, I say, when you find yourself eating something vegan, make a note of it and notice that it's perfect just the way it is. There's no need for additional meat or dairy, and really learn to appreciate those things that you already love. And that's what all vegan food is like. It's good just as it is. It doesn't need the addition of animal products.
And the other thing, where the guy was saying that, about and they're talking about being the one and that starts off something and stuff. Well, that's your job. The one that starts off where they're saying oh wow, and then they're going to see something, and then and doing that, and well, if you don't have a job, that could be your job.
It's a great job. Absolutely.
Yeah. Uh-huh. That's your purpose. That's why you're there.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Well, thanks, Chris, for tuning in and for sharing your comments. Those are really helpful. That's great.
You're welcome.
Aw. Thanks, Chris. So we've got people from all over. Chris is in the Philadelphia area, and we had James in Indiana, and I'm in California, and Judy's in Kansas. So it's wonderful to have our whole people all over the country calling in today. It's nice to have that connection. So we're actually winding up our online gathering. So if anyone has any last minute chat box or comment they'd like to make, feel free to go ahead and do that. But otherwise, we'll get prepared to do our closing prayer. And I want to take a moment to thank Sandra from the bottom of my heart for joining us today and for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and your very positive energy. It's just flowing. The vibes are flowing through the internet lines and through the phone lines today. We're just so grateful that you could join us.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me. And Judy, I loved being part of this, and I really enjoy your presentations, and I will be visiting for future meetings as well.
Oh, that's so exciting. And we have one other comment for you, actually. Diane says, yes, I plan on showing her all of the wonderful vegan burgers, hot dogs, mac and cheese, etc. So she will realize that she doesn't have to give up anything she likes. And she wrote, thanks for the link.
Very welcome. Good luck to you. I'm very excited for you.
Yeah. And stay tuned with us. We do these online gatherings every month. So every month we bring somebody who is an expert in their field, whether it's nutrition or it could be related to, we had actually a Christian vegan scholar join us. Sometimes we have rabbis. So it's a plethora of spiritual fun here. If you want to join us, it's always on the second Thursday of every month, and depending on where you're located, it is usually in the early evening time. So wonderful. Well, thanks to everyone for joining us. And Judy, I don't know if you'd like to do our closing prayer?
Sure. I'm right here. I'm ready. So I just want everybody to take a deep breath and turn your attention within, giving thanks for the source of all life and for each other. Together, we live in harmony and mutual respect with all animals and all of life. Only divine kindness, compassion, love, and light expressed through us as we stand in awe and wonder to see this loving universe that we live in. May our gratitude and our joy as we witness compassion encircling the earth before our very eyes help lift up humanity to its true calling. May all animals everywhere feel our love and know that liberation is coming. May nurturing, gentle, tender, and yet powerful love awaken in all human hearts. May peace, compassion, love, and respect prevail for all animals, all people, everywhere on earth. And so it is.
Oh, that is lovely. Judy, thank you so much for sharing your very powerful and peaceful prayers with us. It's such a wonderful way to bring together everything that we've been talking about this evening with Sandra. So, and thanks to everyone for joining us. We're thrilled to have you with us and as part of our community. This is how we stay connected, and this is how we uplift one another. So thank you for joining us, and we hope you'll tune in another time. We will be sending a replay link to everyone who signed up. You'll get it in your email box tomorrow. And if you don't see it, search through your spam. Hopefully you'll find it in one of those places. Anyway, thanks to everyone. Have a lovely evening. And thanks again to Sandra for sharing your light with us tonight.
Yes, thanks,
Thank you.
Sandra. Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
Judy and Lisa. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. And we have more thank yous on the chat box. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.